Spoiler alert. Hopefully you have not seen that yet, and I didn't just spoil it for you, but if you did, if you haven't, my apologies. Spoiler. Lady Midnight does, in fact.
One day, master's degree. One day, PhD. One day, you will write books. One day, commercials. One day, the impossible, you will laugh at the impossible. You will look at the impossible and go, what was I thinking?
Hello, my spoiler alert friends. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About It. This week we got My Hero Academia Vigilantes. I did watch the latest dubbed episode of Windbreaker. That was good. You know, Sakura was sick and he's missed school, and his classmates were like, yo, where's he at? And then they all come to support him, get him food and snacks and water and stuff like that. And one of the girls comes to his house and makes him food, and they come in and see how he's living. And he's been living on his own, and basically they recognize that he's been living like this for a while, and he's not used to having friends and people who care for him. And, you know, it's just basically showing his life and what it's like for him, and again, how he's developing as a character into someone who cares about others versus just himself. So good episode, not too much juice, you know, but good episode. But I wanted to get into My Hero Academia Vigilantes because it's starting to get interesting. They're starting to throw some elements in there, and I'm like, okay, they might let this run for a little while. It might not be a little short spinoff. So basically, our three vigilantes, heroes, whatever, they're still doing their thing. They're still going around town trying to figure out who's selling this illegal drug that turns regular people into villains. And we happen upon a situation where the Pop Step is doing a show, and there's some dude in the audience who's like, I just want to touch her. And he crashes out and hits the little injection into his neck and turns into an eel and tries to get her. And it's just like, oh, like slimy eel chasing you. And then they convince her, hey, if you just shake his hand, he might just go away. So she goes to shake his hand, and then he's like, ooh, I'm shaking your hand now. I want more. I want a hug. I want a kiss. And he starts like going crazy on her. So then they beat him up and he returns back to normal. But in the process of all this, like, so this happens, and then the police are investigating it. Like, it's always happening in this one area, and why is that, and who's behind this? And then we find out later on, the Crawler. I like Mr. Nice Guy. I can't help it. I like Mr. Nice Guy better. But the Crawler, or the Crowler, as everyone else calls him, and Pop Step were out walking to go meet with the guys the eel dude who had just turned into an eel, because he's just a junior high school student, and his friends. And they were going to ask him, like, hey, where'd you get this drug? Who gave it to you? What did they look like? Trying to get more details out of him, because he's more likely to give the information to Pop Step because she's his idol. So she goes, they're going to talk with him, and then some girl sees her, and then she's like, oh, you're Pop Step, and then all of a sudden wants to take a picture with her, and all of a sudden, and then we later find out that this girl is a part-time villain. So, and she's the one who's been supplying this drug that turns people into villains and makes them rampage. And then we see the heroes, man. I think it's so cool to like catch them when they're younger and at the beginning of their careers. So, you know, we see Endeavor, we see what's the dude who's strong, punches stuff. We also saw Lady Midnight, man. This is before she dies in the war. Spoiler alert. Hopefully you have not seen that yet, and I didn't just spoil it for you, but if you did, if you haven't, my apologies. Spoiler. Lady Midnight does in fact die in the war later on in the show, but we saw her, and they all were fighting this outbreak of villains that happened from the Queen Bee, who is the one who's kind of making everybody turn into these monsters. So I'm curious to see what happens, because she's now captured the dude who was the eel, and she's like taking him in, and I'm assuming she's gonna make him like an evil henchman and just like wreak havoc. So Um, I'm excited to see what happens next. I'm eating it. I'm eating it slowly, right? I don't want to consume the entire show, even though it's dubbed right now. At least 5 or 6 episodes, and they're dubbed right now. But I don't want to watch them all too quickly because I like the show and I kind of just want it to last as long as I can, especially being a dub watcher. We aren't as privileged as you sub watchers. So I will definitely keep you guys posted. If you've watched it and finished up to where we are now, great. Drop some things in the comments. My suspicion is that we're probably going to run into maybe not the League of Villains, but dang, I can't remember the gang that was involved with taking the little girl with the horn who could reverse people's age and time, and basically she would make you evaporate because Erie's her name. I wonder if she's involved with the gang that took her. So I'm just curious. I don't know if you've seen it. Drop it in the comments if I'm on the right track. If not, I guess we'll just see what happens. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.
One thing